What do you do when a legendary serial killer's on the loose in your town? You drive on down to the gas station, round up a bunch of good guys who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty. What's up, everybody? It's time for Nerdy 430, the show where comedian Tim Keck and I nerd out about things that we have seen lately. Today, we're talking about Halloween kills. And when you're talking about Halloween, you got no choice. You got to bring in the expert, the Halloween super fan, ladies and gentlemen, Rachelle McKinney. Rachelle, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for being here.
Our pleasure. You're a Halloween super fan. What's your history with the Halloween franchise?
I am. So I first watched the original Halloween for the first time when I was 13 years old. My dad put it on and was like, you have to watch this. So I watched it. So I watched it, and it was the first horror movie I'd ever really fell in love with. And then I just watched the whole entire series after that and have done multiple reports on it in high school, in English class. And I've seen every documentary, podcasts. I literally watched a documentary yesterday on it. So yeah, I'm obsessed. It's my favorite horror franchise of all time.
Well, seeing as how that's the case, I'm so sorry that Halloween Kills was not a better movie than it was.
Yeah, me too.
I'm excited to get your opinion on it because I have some other friends who are like also very into Halloween, like watching some of the older ones and all of that. I really got into Halloween with like the Rob Zombie version, which the first one of that I thought was awesome. The second one I did not like.
Yeah,
and it seems like this movie followed a similar pattern where it's like the first one, we're introducing like a super scary, like a gigantic man who just appears out of nowhere and stabs people and then bounces. And then this one, and then the second one is like, oh, well, he's also like an angel. And then he talks to God and all this stuff. And this movie too, it's like they took a guy who was like a scary human and now he's magic. He's magic and that's cool. And I don't know. Do you think this progresses like the Halloween story at all? Is this like a recurring pattern? Is this is there any history of this?
I mean, yeah, there is there's a history of people going off and making Halloween movies that don't really fit the original timeline. So there's like 4 different timelines. Like Halloween Season of the Witch has absolutely nothing to do with Halloween franchise at all. It's still good though, but yeah, no, I agree. The Rob Zombie one, I really liked the Rob Zombie one too. It was really great. But this one was, if it was just a standalone Halloween movie, I think it was fine. Like if it was just like how Rob Zombie recreated his own vision for it, if it was just a standalone movie and they just wanted to create a movie with a lot of killing and a lot of gore, it would be fine. But it adds absolutely nothing to the original timeline. It kind of went off by itself, didn't reference anything from really the original. And it was very disappointing. It really was.
What did you guys think of like the violence in this movie? Was this, because I guess I feel like in the first Halloween, my ideal Mike Myers is the guy, there's like that long shot in like the 2018 Halloween where he's just on a street. He goes into a neighbor's house. He murders them. He goes into the other room, murders them. He walks outside. People don't even suspect it. There's a trick-or-treaters around. He walks into the next house, stabs somebody. And this one, it's like, instead of being sneaky, we're just going to have him gruesomely torture people like in full sight. Like we just see everything. There's no sneaking up. He's just going to walk into a house and torture somebody. And it seemed like a deviation to me. I don't know. Am I crazy? Yeah. Is that like his normal MO?
No, it's so Shell and I saw this together on Friday night. We were talking about this on the way out. It's like, I'm right there with you. Ideally, like to me, Michael Myers is a suspense killer. That's the whole thing. And like in the 2018 version, there's that shot where he's just kind of like in the background. You just see him like cross in the doorway in the background. And it's the scariest shit in the world. And then I was wondering what was going to happen because the first movie, like the 2018 movie, has so many direct references to the original Halloween. And so with Halloween Kills, I was like, I mean, they burnt out so many references in the 2018 one. So now I guess we're going to see what David Gordon Green, the director of this one, really brings on his own to the Halloween franchise. And I think I just don't like any of it. It's just pointless action violence. It's honestly my biggest beef with the movie.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. There really weren't any references to the original movie at all. Because like Kevin said, in the original movie, it's very similar. It's suspenseful. You see him in the background behind people's cars, in windows, outside of a school. You just see him standing there. Laurie sees him standing in between her laundry line and just standing outside her window, stalking his prey. That's what it is, because the whole entire franchise is supposed to be about how this can happen in real life. Serial killers are real. He is a serial killer. They stalk their prey and they attack. That's what happens. Like, that can actually really happen. And this movie just like made him more of a monster and not a person. And I don't know, it was just pointless. I felt like it was very pointless to have all of that gore and blood and all of that, because that's not what it's about. If you watch any of the older ones, there's not a lot of gore and there's not a lot of blood. It's just suspense. And yeah, that's all it should be.
It's such can we talk about the other big change they made too, where like the decision to explicitly make it so that Michael is not after Laurie.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, I don't know. That was so stupid. They're like, no, this has nothing to do with you, Laurie. He wasn't stalking you this whole time. We have made 20 other movies about this, and none of those actually count.
So what's the significance of his relationship with Laurie? Why is he stalking her? Why is it? Because it seemed like this was a bomb, and maybe I'm a little out of the loop on like why this is like a huge revelation.
So there are two storylines. There's a storyline where Micah is just obsessed with Laurie, and she's always the one that got away, and she was the one that he first saw, and he just fixated on her.
That's a classic romance.
Yeah, seriously.
Classic serial killer.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's another storyline where Michael Myers is actually related to Laurie, and Laurie is Michael's sister, because after Michael kills his older sister, and there's a storyline where he ends up killing his parents as well. Laurie is put up for adoption, and then she is adopted. So yeah. And I think that's why people are so upset about it, because there are two very strong original storylines where Michael is fixated on her, and for them to just throw that completely out the window made absolutely no sense to me, because the whole 2018 movie was Laurie being like, he's coming for us. He's coming for me. He's coming for my family, because he wants me to die and he wants my family to die. And they just completely dismissed that.
It's crazy that this movie had such a strong through line early on, where I don't know if it's from an original draft or what, but the whole time they're like, he's coming to the hospital. And meanwhile, we see the tension inside the hospital coming to a boiling point, and then he's just not coming to the hospital at all. It feels like a missed opportunity. Instead, he's going to his house, which they established, like 25 times in the second and third acts. He's heading into his house just so he can stand in the window to look at his reflection. Like, is his entire goal to stand and look out that same window? It's just weak. It's just not as strong of a motivation.
Yes, I agree. No, I agree. I 100% agree. I think the whole hospital thing was so that they could have this other person that had escaped from the mental hospital be put into the plot, which that was just disturbing. And I hated it so much. That whole entire experience was really disturbing. And my take was, Halloween always does a really great job at defining the line between evil and good. And with this whole mob scene and this mob mentality, it really blurs those lines, because it's like, oh, some people are okay to kill if they're trying to hurt us, some people are not. And they're like went after the wrong person, and then they made him jump out of the window, which was awful. And then they all felt bad. And they're like, oh no, we did this bad thing, but we still got to band together with this huge mob and go get the actual bad guy. And it's just weird.
It felt insane.
It's not good. And I agree with you guys from the perspective of replacing, from a story writing standpoint, replacing a human being in a like living character with a house and an animate object is probably not a good like writing skill regardless. I don't think it's ever a good move in a storytelling standpoint. It wasn't about the people, it was about the things. Not a very compelling narrative. and the hospital thing, like it felt like a Venom 2 situation where it's just like they just think they're so smart with this misdirect. Like I would love to see Michael Myers try and get to Laurie in a hospital full of people. Yes. How great is that? Does he cut the lights? Is he sneaking by people? Is there a distraction? Like,
that would be terrifying.
It would be awesome.
How many more people is he killing in the hospital? Oh. Like if you just bodies piling up in this hospital because he's cutting his way through everybody. Oh, be so scary.
I think it would have been really cool if they would have started it out with like the firefighters, like putting the house out but them not finding his body. I mean, that was a really cool shot of him like walking out while everything was on fire. That was really fucking cool. But I think it would have been really cool if the firefighters would have just put the house put the fire out, but they just didn't find his body. And that then all of a sudden there's a shot of him just like sitting up like there was in the first movie. In the very first movie, there's a scene where Laurie's at the top of the staircase and she thinks she killed him for like the third time. And you just see him in the background just rise and like sit straight up. And I think that would have been really cool if they would have done that. And then no one would have known what was going on. No one would have known that he was still alive. And he could have still been this creepy, stalking, mystery human. And it would have been awesome.
Oh, that's so much scarier.
Yeah.
100%.
It's so funny you bring that up too, because like the firefighter scene, totally agree. Really cool shot of him coming out of the burning house. But the firefighters who are there to ostensibly save lives, if possible, turn on him immediately.
Yeah.
Like they don't know that he's a serial killer necessarily.
Yeah.
And still the guy's like, I'm going to turn this hose on this man. It was just like, what the fuck is happening?
It was really weird. Yeah. Like what if this was a person in a Halloween costume?
Yeah.
Just like walking out of a house.
It's literally, it's Halloween.
Yeah.
The idea of Michael Myers turning into, I was saying John Wick to a friend earlier. It's not even John Wick. This is Jackie Chan shit where like one person takes on a room full of like 20 people. He just mowed through 20 firefighters. And then at the end, he just mows through a mob of 20 people who are trying to kill. It's insane. And it's not what I want from Michael Myers. I'm sorry. That's not what he should be doing. That's not what I want. That's not scary. There's nothing scary about that. It's just action.
No, I agree. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So like there's always, I love gore. I love slasher. Like I love that stuff too. But suspense is definitely my number one favorite horror genre. But like there are movies that gore makes it better. Like 28 Days Later. And like things like that, like there's a lot of gore and a lot of killing. But the thing is, the reason why it's so good is because the people that are the mass amounts of people that are dying, you do not have a physical and mental relationship with them throughout the storyline. Here, every single person that Michael Myers kills, you get to know them a little bit. Like the couple, that poor couple that was like in the house that was flying the little drone. When oh my God, that was heart-wrenching. And it was not scary. It was just sad. And it made me feel bad. I don't want to watch a horror movie that makes me feel bad. It's supposed to scare you. It's supposed to like get your heart rate going and being like, oh my gosh, this is so great. It's so terrifying. It's not supposed to be like, make you want to cry because your character dies. It's not a drama. I don't know.
Yeah, that idea of consequences, it's something that they do really well in some areas where, like, I am glad that we saw the extent to which, getting stabbed in the end of the 2018 one hurt Jamie Lee Curtis. Seeing like the surgery, seeing her opened up for surgery was like grotesque, but it was like, yeah, all these injuries that you see people easily survive in horror movies, we're actually seeing consequences in it for once. And then she got up and I was like, I don't know about her getting up out of this bed. But then when she hit the dude, she opened her chest back up and it was like, okay, we're dealing with realistic consequences of this. But yeah, the people in the house getting murdered, the drone, the woman that sees her son in the morgue, it's like they take the idea of consequences a little bit too far to the point where it's like, I don't need that shoved down my throat.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, it was just bad.
Horror should be an escape. And this was not an escape. This made me sad watching this. Yeah. These murders, I felt sad. And in the first Halloween, he kills so many people and I don't feel sad. There's an overriding fear is more powerful than sadness. And in this, there's no fear. It's just, why are you killing this sweet old couple? And why is it so gruesome? And why are you torturing them? This is crazy. It's just not what I was looking for.
No, totally I agree with that too. Yeah, it's just awful.
Kevin, you want to do some categories?
Categories. Let's kick it off with when did you know? When did you know that Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't going to be in this movie?
I think I knew as soon as her granddaughter left the hospital when they dropped her off and she gave her the knife. I think that as soon as I saw that, and when they were at the talent show at the bar, when they introduced all of the characters that were in the first movie, which I thought that was cool that they brought them back. But I thought it was weird that they had the little boy at the beginning of the movie in that flashback just randomly thrown in there. That was very weird. Yeah. Yeah, that was really weird. But yeah, as soon as I saw all of these other characters introduced into the storyline, I was like, oh, Laurie's like not going to be part of this at all.
I think once she had the surgery, once she's like being cut open on a table, I'm like, I get that it's realistic, but I want Jamie Lee Curtis in this movie. She's awesome. I want to see her and stuff. And treating her injury like a very real grounded injury in a movie where you've stabbed this guy 1,000,000 times and he's still up and walking and never bleeds or anything. It's a bummer because it means Jamie Lee Curtis isn't going to be involved in the movie. Like, you can't be operated on. I think there's a way to get stabbed. You get stitched up and you tough it out. You didn't hit any vital organs. You're so lucky this didn't do anything. Once she's on a table having emergency surgery, she's out. She's out for the count, and it's not fun. It's not cool, especially when there's no payoff for it. He doesn't come to the hospital. So frustrating. So frustrating.
I am really mad about the whole hospital thing. Like I said, if they would have just started the movie differently, because he could have just like walked to the hospital, like you said, cut the power lines in the hospital, just creeped around the hallways until they found Laurie's room. And that would have been awesome.
Oh my God. A whole Halloween movie. Yeah. Where like Laurie had been stabbed, but it's not fatal, but it's enough to slow her down a little bit.
Yes.
Like, that's awesome. That's so suspenseful.
And then they could have had like Hawkins, which the cop, which was a whole other thing that was dumb too.
Love story for the ages.
Oh my gosh. Of course they had to give Laurie a fucking man to be in love with when she's a badass woman who doesn't need a man in the first place. Cause that's the whole storyline too with Halloween, is that she's never has a man ever out of the whole entire franchise, never ever has one. But in this one, they had to throw one in there. So stupid. Yeah.
We, Lauren and I have been like, we just geek out about these like 80s heroines where the first movie will be a horror movie and then the second movie is an action movie, and just how cool of an evolution that is and how cool of a trope from the 80s it is and how we wish it would have continued past, Ripley and Sarah Connor. And seeing the 2018 Halloween and seeing how like like that attitude of Jamie Lee Curtis, where she like comes down the stairs and is like, bang, you're dead. And like, this isn't a cage for me. It's a trap for him. That is such a beautiful addition to that lineage. Like she fits perfectly. They established this version of Jamie Lee Curtis and then they leave her in a hospital bed for this entire movie. I just, fuck that. It was a huge bummer.
Yeah.
Judy Greer taking the shot in the 2018 one is like the best moment of the movie.
Yeah.
For that. It's
amazing.
One of the coolest action movie things I've ever seen is her crying and then real serious taking the shot. Yeah. There is also, while we're talking about this, there is like a trope that I'm obsessed with for just how terrible it is, where like if there's a daughter in a horror movie or an action movie, she is going to get people killed. She's going to do something dumb and she gets everybody killed. And the daughter in this movie is like acting crazy. I don't know if she actually like gets people killed, because it seems like all these people, the behavior of, I mean, when did you know that nobody in this movie was going to act like a normal person? Because they're crazy. Such dumb decisions. This dad's like, you two wait in the car. We've been driving around all armed. I'm going to go in and then I get my son killed. I get this girl killed. It's crazy. And the idea that I don't know. There's also a weird thing where the girl at the end of the movie, Mike Myers is coming towards her, like about to stab her. And instead of going out the front door and running away, she like turns back into the house, which I'm realizing they're doing blocking to set up another character who is going to show up in the door frame right now.
Yeah.
She can't go outside because another character needs to be standing in the doorway in order for this next thing to work. And I'm like, I shouldn't be thinking about these things during a movie. Like they should just be acting. They should be doing the thing. It's crazy. There's also, this is like bleeding into my beefs. I have a when did you know, but the beefs of there's so many people. Did you know when you guys are driving and there's like 4 of you in a car and somebody needs to go investigate, the driver is the one who needs to get out, like, and take the keys and go
every single time.
It's insane.
Time.
And the child locks need to be on the back doors. If there's no child locks, then your child could fall out.
So that scene with the car that you're talking about when they're at the playground.
Yeah.
Okay. So the nurse who was brought back from the original movie. So the nurse is in the passenger seat. She's shooting Michael Myers. Every time she shoots a window, she then locks the door after she shoots the window out, which makes zero sense. Like 0 sense at all. It's so stupid.
It's insane. Like if he was going to try to open a door to the car, that's a great opportunity to shoot him. He's got to stop and open a car door. I mean, come on. That's just a clumsy thing that humans do.
Mm-hmm.
These people are bumbling idiots. You're safe in the car until he has a way in.
Exactly. Just don't move. Don't shoot anything. You scream and yell, yes, but don't just stay there and just chill.
My beef is that this movie was just overwhelmed with people making dumb decisions. Yeah. Which is such an old horror trope. And I feel like a lot of modern horror movies, they get away from that. They justify the action somehow. There's a reason why they're acting this way. But it's just, this movie's just full of dumb people being dummies, doing dumb stuff that no rational human would do. And like, this guy's like holding a gun. He's never fired a gun before. It's like, great, cool. I don't know. This woman's just shooting everybody. She's waiting until Mike Myers gets right in her face to like do this, but she's I don't know. It's just...
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
I did think it was really cool. So I don't know if you remember, but the couple that was in the doctor and the nurse costume was in the original movie. There was like, when Michael is coming out of a house in the neighborhood, and there's that shot in the 2018 movie where the shot of where he's standing there and you see a bunch of kids trick-or-treating and there's a couple getting into a car and it's them. They're getting into a car to leave to go to the work part, his boss's work party. So that was cool. I thought that was cool that they did that. Mm-hmm. There's like little things I thought were cool. Like the nurse being in the car, like it was a horrible scene, but like they brought that back because in the original movie, that's where she first met Michael, was in a car and he was on top of the car and he busted through the window and grabbed her and dragged her out. And so I thought that was cool. At the end of the movie, Allison, the granddaughter, was at the top of the stairs and Michael Myers threw her over the banister and she fell down the stairs. So that was in the original movie too. So there were like little things that were from the original, but it wasn't as parallel as the 2018 version was. But there were still little callbacks that I thought were interesting, but all in all, I did not like it.
Yeah.
So we have our two categories, beefs and thieves. It seems like we're talking about both of them. Rachelle, would you say that's your thief then, is like those nods, those homages or homages? Or would you say is there another thief in the movie that stands out for you? What stole the show?
I thought it was cool. I really thought it was cool that they brought the kids back too. Tommy and what was the other one's name? Lynn? Is it Lynn? Lindsay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy and Lindsay were the two children in the original movie. And it was cool that they came back. They introduced the characters very weird. Him telling the story of Halloween at this talent show. And then him and Lauren made a really good point when we were walking home. She was like, oh, and this person was there too. And this person is there and they're here with me. And this person is there and they're here with, it was just very weird. But I thought it was cool that they were there. I didn't like Tommy's character. I thought he was very stupid, which you would think someone that survived something like that at such a young age would be a lot smarter about these things. Like Lori, obviously, like she was a shut-in, but she was protecting herself the whole time. But he just kind of was like, let's get all these people together and cause insane chaos and mass destruction. So but that was weird. Kevin,
any beefs and thieves?
Oh my God. You know, I got beefs. I think the biggest beef I want to list for this one is I hate that every character in this movie got a monologue where they were like, that's why I have to be the one to kill him. Like, no, you don't have a connection. Lori has a connection to this person. Anthony Michael Hall does not have a connection to want to kill him. Like, it's just not. I don't know if they were trying to set up the idea that, like, you know, everybody in the town has a grudge and he's haunting the entire town. I think they might have actually said that he's haunting the entire town, not just one of us. But you don't get to claim that you have a vendetta against this person. Like we were talking about, like Shell just brought up how it's like, and this person was there and this person was there. The connections are so tangential. Like Lonnie, his whole thing is that he tripped on the sidewalk and saw Michael. That's it. That's the whole thing. And he's like, I survived an encounter with him. And it's like, you didn't, though. Like, his thing isn't that he kills literally anybody he looks at. Like, he walks around the street a bunch and there's a bunch of kids running around. It's just, that just frustrated me a lot.
It's just huge reach. It's just like a huge reach. They did that a couple of times. And it makes no sense. Yeah.
Piggybacking off of that, is there any satisfying conclusion to this franchise where Lori, I guess Jamie Lee Curtis, isn't the one who kills Michael Myers? It seems like they're setting up her granddaughter, the girl who like went into the house, but I feel nothing for her. I'm sorry. She makes dumb choices. She's not smart. I get that both of her parents have died at this point, but if she's the one who does it, I just don't find that compelling at all. I like Jamie Lee Curtis in my mind needs to be the one to deliver the killing blow and like complete the arc. Is there anyone else in the story that could do it, or am I wrong about the?
No, I agree 110%. I don't even know why they made this movie, because 2018 was so satisfying. It genuinely was. And I would have been completely fine if there was not another movie after that. It was perfect in my eyes, because they did it as, it was Jamie Lee Curtis who did it, but like they did it as a family, which I thought was really fucking cool. And yeah, but this was awful. And like, Allison's mom dying at the end, the way that she died was so stupid. It was so dumb. I was like, oh, so and when I first saw her staring at herself in the window and smiling, I was like, oh, she's going to go crazy now, because that's the whole thing. Michael Myers looks at his reflection and sees this horrible human being. And that's why I thought they were setting it up for. But no, he just comes up behind her and stabs her a million times. And it was really stupid.
So fucking dumb. What is it
Yeah.
about that goddamn window? He loves that window so much.
Yeah. And that would have been, I don't know if that would have been necessarily a good take on it, but it would have been it would have made it more interesting if they would have done something like that. Like they set up this whole time that was like Michael Myers always returns home and looks at this window and stares at himself, and he sees the monster within himself, and that drives him to kill. That's like the whole storyline in this one individual movie. And like her staring at herself and then smiling demonically like that, you would think like, oh, so she's going to go crazy now. But no, that didn't happen.
They also ran back the exact same beat of her like tricking Michael Myers at the end, and like, okay, she's running away, and at no point am I like, oh, she's running for her life. I'm like, she's leading him into a trap. This is a trap.
Yeah.
Like they had a trap at the end of the first one. This is another trap. It's just there's nothing. There was no juice in this,
and it was a bad trap. It was not.
How do you? I am not resting until I see his head separated from his body. That is the only point at which I am walking away from this. You know, like
Yes.
I don't care how many times you hit him with a bat. Bats are useless in this world we've created. Like I need a head. I need his head on a plate, or I am going to be terrified for the rest of my life. We should get into reckless speculation at the end of this pod. I want to get it started with a question to you both. Is it the right choice to make this trilogy take place all on the same night?
I dig it. I like that this one started right when the other one ended, but I'm disappointed that the third one, apparently there's a 4-year time jump between the second and the third ones.
Oh.
So it's going to be, the first one came out in 2018, was set in 2018. This one came out 2021, was set in 2018. The next one's coming out 2022, set in 2022.
Whoa.
I'm happy about that because Jamie Lee Curtis can be around, but I'm not happy about that because it would be cooler to have it all the same night, I think.
Yeah. I think it would have be really hard to make a third movie within the same night with the way that the second one was. Like if it was filmed better and it wasn't bad, they could probably do it. But the way it ended and the way they just shot it all, it was just not okay. I did like that, like Kevin said, that it started directly after. But I didn't like the flashback. That was very confusing to me. I feel like it wasn't very clear that they were flashing back. And when I was watching it, because I was like, I didn't realize it until, I don't think I was paying attention enough or something. I don't know, but I didn't realize it until they were in the house. Like when Hawkins' partner had got killed, that they that was a flashback. I didn't realize that. Yeah, so I thought it was really
weird.
bad.
It was weird.
I thought it was really weird. And the only reason why they did that is because they needed to have Hawkins have this storyline as to why he had this like burden put on him his whole entire life. Like they had to, it's like reaching. It's the whole reaching thing again. They had to do that. If they didn't do that, I think it would have been a lot better. If it wasn't so gory, I think they could have done a third movie within the same night too. But yeah, I'm happy they're not now because I think it would be bad. So this has potential for it to be better since it's going to be 4 years later. So.
I didn't realize it was this 4 years later thing for the third one. And that makes me think that this movie was a complete waste of time. Yeah. Why bother making the second one in a trilogy on the same night if we didn't get any benefits from that? Like there's like story wise, I don't think we got anything out of it being the same night. It's It was, we didn't get any new information. Nothing happened that needed to happen the same night. It could have happened a year later, could happen 4 years later. And for the third one, doing the 4-year jump, it's like, so then why'd we even do this? Why'd we do 2 in a row? This is it's God. Now I'm just mad.
I'll tell you
I'm
why.
just mad at this
because
whole
the
thing.
third movie, the story for the third movie is very dependent on the pandemic.
Yeah.
They got to jump forward in time. Michael Myers had a bad time during the pandemic. We're going to find out
He got
all
COVID.
about it. He definitely got COVID.
That's how he actually dies.
Despite
Like
the fact
any
that he wore a mask the entire time.
He isolated himself like any good American. He got the disease. He stayed in his apartment for 12 days.
He should have been on a ventilator years ago. You can hear him breathing.
So I do have one question. Do they arrest him, or is he still out running free at the end of this movie?
Michael Myers? Oh, he's free. Oh,
Yeah.
he's free as a
right?
bird.
That's what I thought. Okay.
He's murdered all of the grown men in town and his like daughter-in-law or whatever, right? Or his niece. But not his maybe
because
niece?
in 2018. No. Well, in the 2018 movie, they clarify that that storyline is not in line with this at all.
Insane. Well, Shell, thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful to have you. And again, I'm sorry this movie wasn't better.
Yeah, no, this was really fun. I love talking about horror. So this was a great time. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, let's do it again.
We'll definitely bring you back for Halloween Sucks or whatever the third one's called.
I think it's called Halloween End. I think that's what it is.
It should have ended with the first one.
Yeah.
We'll have you back to talk about it in 2022. Well, maybe before. I don't know. We'll definitely convene again for the next Halloween movie. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. And
thank you for having me.
Thank you, the audience, so much for listening to our podcast. This has been Nerdy for 30. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.